Welcome to another episode of Let's Talk Quality, the podcast. My name is Hemish Ilangaratne, and since 2023, I've been interviewing some of the most talented and well-respected quality leaders in the pharma and biotech industry to learn how they got to where they are now. This season is all about our guests and their journeys. Why they got into science, how they got into quality, their biggest challenges and greatest learns, and the highs and lows along the way. Every week, I'll be bringing you a new guest with the purpose of inspiring the next generation of quality leaders. Welcome to Season 2. I hope you enjoy the show.
Hi all, welcome to another episode of Let's Talk Quality, the podcast. Today I'm joined by Matthew Wheeler. Matt is the Vice President of Quality and Clinical Operations for Precision BioSciences, a gene editing company based in North Carolina. What struck me about Matt and his journey is his incredible resilience. In the past 12 months, Matt has been diagnosed with not just one, but 3 rare diseases. Despite these challenges, Matt has continued to lead with strength, with gratitude, and incredible resilience. He is truly passionate about impacting patients' lives, and I would encourage everyone to listen to this journey. It's incredibly inspirational. So I hope everyone enjoys the show. Let's get into it. Hey, Matt, how are you? Good to have you on the show. Welcome to Let's Talk Quality.
Thank you. Honored to be here, sir.
Good man. Tell the listeners where you are dialing in from today.
Dialing in from Raleigh, North Carolina, but I work in Durham in the Research Triangle Park in North Carolina. So,
well, look, there's plenty to talk about today and lots of exciting stuff. For the listeners and the viewers' benefit, could you give them a quick overview of who you are and what your role is now?
Yeah, so I've been in the biotech industry for about 15 years. Started out, actually we'll talk about this later, but started out at Kellogg's Bakery and Food Manufacturing, joined a company called Biogen, then did consulting for about 5 years, and then was lucky enough to join an amazing company called Precision BioSciences, where I'm at now.
Yeah.
We were doing CAR T-cell therapy. Now we have focused on our gene editing platform, our ARCUS gene editing platform. I am the Vice President of Quality and Clinical Operations, and yeah, it's an amazing company. We just got approval for CTA in Moldova for our hepatitis B gene editing program, and we're excited to change the world. So yeah,
nice, amazing, incredibly exciting time, and congratulations to you as well. Just recently promoted to Vice President of Quality.
That's right.
Incredible achievement.
Yeah, lucky and blessed, and just fortunate to work with such a great company that supports people like me who work their butts off.
Yeah, absolutely. No, good for you. But we'll get into that. How did you? So you started your career in Kellogg's. How did that come about? How did you start with or how did you get that job? And then how did you move into biotech?
Yeah, so I'll start in high school. It was maybe intrigue and serendipity. I remember in high school, I had no purpose in life and no real. I didn't know what I wanted to do, but I do remember my teachers. They noticed that I had a keen interest in chemistry, biology, and physics. Fast forward to college, I had no idea what I wanted to do for the rest of my life. I switched majors 3 times in the first year and a half, and I got great advice from an advisor. And many people with kids watching this might say this is terrible advice, but the advice he gave me was, he could tell I was stressed. He said, "Look, don't worry about what you're going to do the rest of your life. Just get the degree." So we talked. We talked about what my interests were. As a 21-year-old, I was interested in working out and eating right, and so I ended up getting a nutrition degree, which was basically a biological sciences degree with a few courses in nutrition. So the way I ended up at Kellogg's was after college in 2010. In this area, the job market was interesting. There were jobs, but the employers were not particularly interested in hiring full time. So there was a lot of recruiting going on and temporary jobs. So found a recruiter. She said, "What the hell do we do with this guy with a nutrition science degree who isn't going to be a registered dietitian?" And I ended up at Kellogg's. I was in quality assurance and a combined QA and QC role in their microbiology lab at Kellogg's in Cary, North Carolina. And we made sandwich crackers and Cheez-Its. And that that is where I learned to love the intensity of manufacturing. I was exposed to Lean Six Sigma, and strong leaders. Some of the strongest leaders I've ever worked with since then I met at Kellogg's. And so, as I mentioned, we were making cookies. I knew that the biotech and pharmaceutical industry in this area was growing. I wanted to make medicine. Kind of tapped into my network and was lucky enough to join Biogen and their QC microbiology group after my stint at Kellogg's.
So that was 2011, roughly.
That's
when
right.
When you were in Kellogg's, yeah. Yeah, I can relate to that time because I started my first job. I think I left university in 2010, and then started my first job in 2011 recruiting into the biotech space. So yeah, I remember that time well. Market was sort of really picking up after sort of 2008, 2009, and jobs were on the up. So it's really a good time to get to finish college, university, and get into work. Nice. So Biogen was your first job in biotech. Pharma.
That's
biotech.
right. Yeah.
And that was QC.
That was QC microbiology. Learned a ton there, man. It was it's twofold. It set the foundation for the rest of my career because Biogen was hardline GXP GMP. They had an amazing training program, and the way they did it was top notch. I mean, everything they did was by the book, and I learned exactly how to do it if you want to do it perfectly, and it really benefited me pretty much for the rest of my career.
Yeah, there's a lot to be said for joining big pharma or big biotech or even medium-sized biotech early on in your career because it's a good, I suppose, training ground for learning real good core practices and habits, I suppose.
I could sell you on the reverse. I could sell you on why starting at a small cap biotech or a smaller firm or even a consulting firm and bouncing around at lots of different jobs would be. I mean, you really can't go wrong. But for me, it's the way it worked.
Yeah,
and it benefited me.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about that then. I suppose you've gone from Biogen, a couple of different, a couple of different companies between Biogen and Precision. That you're at, and then you've been in Precision now for coming up to 5 years.
That's right. Yeah, 5 years. That's right. Yeah,
5 years. Yeah. So let's talk about that. So from big pharma, startups. You mentioned there you could sell me the reverse. I suppose what would you say to that point?
Yeah. As for the benefit of having different positions early in your career, well, I'll say. Early is relative. I'm 15 years in, and by the way, I constantly have different positions. If you look at my LinkedIn, it bounces around all over the place, but or has bounced around all over the place. But yeah, so after I left Biogen, so at Biogen I learned a lot. Like I said, QC microbiology, learned it through and through, all the day-to-day testing, all the rules and regulations. I spent the extra time to study the USP, ISPE guidelines, FDA regulations to learn kind of the why behind the what. But in addition, I saw these people coming in all the time doing validation of our analytical instruments, and I thought, gosh, what are they doing? No one actually knows what they're doing. I know we review their stuff, but we hire them. I'm pretty sure they make good money, and it seems like a trade. It seems like this sort of specialized trade, and I wanted to do that. So what I did was I had, again, great supportive leaders at Biogen who let me sort of work on those projects and learn analytical method development, validation, and analytical instrument qualification. And then after Biogen did a layoff, gosh, I can't remember the year. It wasn't their last layoff. It was the one before that. And a friend of mine shifted into a consulting firm called Chymanox, and said, "Hey, Matt, I know you're interested in kind of spreading your wings a little bit, getting a little bit more breadth. If you join this company, we can get you into engineering, validation, can do some other things." So, I guess to sell you on the reverse, the pro is when I joined Chymanox, and for the 4.5 or 5 years I was there, I worked at 25 different companies, and did process engineering, regulatory affairs, validation, construction engineering, auditing, med device, IVD, and then gene and cell therapy. And so it exposed me to so much, and two things really happened. I learned what I liked and what I didn't like, and it gave me options in my next move. I could write 4 different resumes based on the work I did at Cheminox, and again the Biogen, that sort of training ground carried me through. I was able to coach and train many new employees at Cheminox who didn't have that experience on the right ways to do things because of that. But yeah, then on the flip side, they got to learn early exactly what they liked and what they didn't like. So I think that's a benefit.
Yeah, definitely. And you've mentioned leaders a couple of times there from your time at Kellogg's and Biogen. Have you had mentors, and have they played a big role in your development?
Yeah, absolutely. Throughout my career, I've been blessed with amazing mentors. Some knew they were my mentor, and others I just watched and emulated. They were a mentor, and they didn't even know it. They were just being a good human being and supporting me. The people I that didn't know I was watching, they were strong leaders who unknowingly taught me drive, integrity, and the value of hard work. And probably one of the biggest ones is service. That one has carried me throughout my career. No matter what you do, you are always serving someone. And if you carry that mentality, people want to work with you because they like being helped. But also it softens people and allows them to work better with you. As for maybe more official mentors, at almost every company I worked for, I had one, and they not only taught me kind of the tools for my career, but also philosophy and perspectives on life as well. So I've learned several lessons from mentors in my career.
Yeah. Yeah, no, and you then progressed from Cheminox Precision. When you started at Precision, you were a validation manager. Is that right?
That's right.
And so you progressed very quickly, and that's, I suppose, to your point, one of the benefits of joining a company early in their development is the breadth of exposure that you get to different opportunities, which probably helps accelerate your career progression as well. Would that be fair?
Absolutely right. And like I said, man, at most people at Precision didn't know I had a background in quality. I left Biogen because I was interested in validation. And I was still interested in validation, and Precision was actually one of my clients when I was working with Cheminox, and I helped build out their GMP facility and RTP and their labs. And then they offered me the opportunity to join as the validation manager, and I really liked validation, by the way. So I took that opportunity to join an operating company. I think it's worth noting one of the reasons that I left Cheminox was because of this fear that I had. It was a false fear that I was getting too much breadth, not enough depth, and that I needed to really focus in on one particular thing. But to your point, I genuinely think the reason I was able to scale at Precision is because of that breadth. So, yeah, I had been exposed to regulatory affairs, quality over the last 10 years, and when opportunity arose at Precision, I kind of just stepped into place, kind of serendipitously.
Was it like a natural? From you going into from validation into quality, was that by your choice, or was that because there was a space in the organization? You mentioned there you wanted to focus on a specific area. Like, how did that role develop into a leadership career in quality?
There was a space in the organization. There was a vacuum. There was, however, there's a validation, MS&T and AS&T. Those are the bridges between engineering, process development, analytical development, and GMP. And so I was already speaking the language and sort of translating the facility design and construction to quality. I knew all the rules and regulations, and frankly, many times validation lives under a quality umbrella. So, I was already integrated with the quality team very well. The way it actually stemmed was we were audited by one of our bigger partners, and the organization noticed that Matt was in the audit room a whole lot. And it really wasn't because Matt's great. It was because, and anyone watching this will know this, auditors are particularly interested in validation and environmental monitoring and microbiology. And those were both things that were in my history and that I had sort of taken on at Precision. So I found myself in that audit room a lot. They noticed that, and then when there was an opportunity, that's all relationships and kind of being set up for success.
Yeah. What do you enjoy about quality leadership?
Yeah, I like building quality across an organization. It's not that difficult to integrate quality into a pre-existing GMP environment, because you've already hired experienced people who are trained, and frankly, anyone knows it's a more militant style of working. There's procedures, policies. They know how to follow the rules, and that's the job.
Yeah.
What I really enjoy about Precision is it's a research and development organization, and of course we do manufacture GMP products, but those are outsourced to CDMOs. But what I really love is integrating quality into the research and development organization. So let's throw the fear of regulators out of the picture, because that's not why we do what we do. The heart of quality is doing the right thing even when no one is watching, particularly if you're trying to integrate quality into those less traditionally regulated functions like R&D. So what I like to do is set the vision through policies, procedures, documented business processes of varying rigor depending on what culture of the organization you're targeting, between research, development, or quality or QC. And what I like most about researchers is that they see themselves as artists, and they need the flexibility to do good science. At the same time, we want them to document everything, and we want them to do good science. However, we don't want to burden them with the same GMP quality rigor that you would in a QC testing lab. So in that instance, what I found is you set guardrails for self-management, self-verification within those organizations, and then you trust, but you verify. And like I said, I go back to service because, I guess, gosh, for the first 3 years of my stint at Precision and trying to integrating quality into the research organization, there's sort of this you're quality, we don't really understand what you're doing, you're just checking boxes and stuff, and you actually have to get into your own head and say, why am I doing this, and what are the rules for research? Because these rules these CFRs don't necessarily apply in the same way. So again, back to service, what I found is work with them to serve them, to provide solutions that benefit them and improve their efficiency, but they're also going to improve the quality and data integrity of the work that they're doing. So,
yeah, awesome. You guys are doing some pretty cool science, and we were talking just before we went live about your sort of personal story and its connection with Precision and the science and the therapies that you were developing. Do you want to just, I suppose, give the listeners and the viewers a bit of a backstory and, I suppose, just paint that picture of what your situation is and why that's important in this context for you working at Precision?
Yeah, absolutely. So for the last 15 years, up until the last year, what I loved about kind of what drove me and got me out of bed was working with great people, serving great people. I knew we were treating patients, but I never really fully understood or could sort of grasp what we were bringing to patients because I hadn't experienced it through either family or self. However, today this question resonates with me a lot because in the last year I've had the misfortune and fortune, because everything has a silver lining, of having 3 rare diseases diagnosed. One of which is alpha-1 antitrypsin deficiency. That one is a disease that it's one of the more common rare diseases in the United States. You see a lot of companies right now actually going after it with gene editing technologies. It affects the liver and lungs. It doesn't necessarily cause symptoms. It basically just puts you at a higher risk of having lung and liver disease at a certain point in your life. And I'm lucky right now that I don't have either of those caused by that disease, and I knock on wood and hope that I don't. In the last 2 months, I was diagnosed with 2, again, very, very lightning striking luck here, 2 rare diseases. One is called IgA nephropathy. That is a autoimmune disease that affects your kidneys, where these immunoglobulins, they, through some sort of modification, become flip and they get trapped in your kidneys, and then your immune system attacks them and affects your kidneys. And on top of that was diagnosed with a type of vasculitis, a type of ANCA vasculitis called GPA, or Wegener's disease. And IgA is actually the most common glomerulonephritis in the world. So it has treatments. It has varying degrees of severity, and I have an amazing healthcare team here in RTP. I work with UNC, and they're absolutely amazing. And basically, they said, okay, so let's set the IgA aside because the ANCA is the more severe one. And by the way, the treatment for ANCA treats both, so right. That's a good thing. I guess the reason this resonates with me, because when I was diagnosed, of course, like anyone else, I'm going to Google this thing, and you Google ANCA vasculitis or GPA, and it tells you you're going to be dead in 3 to 6 months. But the internet is not always right, and so what that disease does is it attacks these anti-neutrophilic cytoplasmic antibodies. Similarly to the IgA, becomes sort of modified, and they attack your vasculature, or they cause your immune system to attack your vasculature. And so for me, that was noticeable kidney dysfunction, and I was again lucky to have great healthcare practitioners at UNC to move on this fast. And so right now I am receiving life-saving therapy through the form of rituximab infusions to basically halt my immune system from damaging itself any further, and Cytoxan, which is a chemotherapy agent that they also use to treat this. The Cytoxan is not going to be a permanent. It's more of a crutch to bridge me to when the rituximab will begin to work in 3 to 6 months. But yeah, so that's kind of my story, and for that reason, I'm passionate about 2 types of patients, super passionate about it, and I fully understand what they're going through at this point. Those who have no other option, or literally desperate for an option, it can sustain a relatively normal quality of life, or maybe be curative, right? So that's one type. And then those who do have medical and pharmaceutical options, like myself, to live a relatively normal life, but with this chronic disease, and frankly, a cloud of fear and hopelessness sometimes hanging over your head about what will your life become. It's not going to be exactly what you planned. And then maybe more important to me, your family, how's your family going to be impacted by this? And so I guess to reiterate, these patients are waiting. They're checking these companies that they're interested in on a daily and weekly basis that can offer them help. And by the way, I'm not the childhood patient with Dravet syndrome or Duchenne muscular dystrophy who has a much worse outlook than I do. So I don't even claim to be able to relate to that. But that's who I'm passionate about, and that's why I think every second counts at what we do at Precision for the diseases that we're trying to treat. If we can, I lived through this a month and a half ago. I wanted 1 year. I would be happy with one more year. These patients, five more minutes with their family and loved ones is important. So that's why I say it's super important to do what we do and do it with speed and bring it to the patients as fast as possible.
Yes, I mean, it's an unbelievable story. I mean, to get that news one after the other in the last 2 or 3 months, how like what's the prognosis first and foremost? Like how is that affecting your life and your outlook on life?
Yeah. So right now I'm on. To speak more specifically, what they do for this, thankfully there's sort of a gold standard approach to this, and you hit it with high dose prednisone first, and you stop progression. So I'm severely immunocompromised, right? I'm on high dose prednisone, Cytoxan, and rituximab, and the prednisone is to stop it in its tracks. Cytoxan is to reverse it, and the rituximab is a much less it's an agent with a lot less side effects than Cytoxan. So that's what I'll kind of carry on with for a longer duration. Right now, the plan is I'm going to be on that for at least 2 years, every 6 months, and put this thing into remission. And diseases like autoimmune diseases, I've learned they have a tailored approach. They have sort of a custom approach on a patient by patient basis. So I'm going to work with the UNC Vasculitis Center basically for the rest of my life to kind of manage this thing. So that's the prognosis, and I expect to live a long life.
Yeah.
So when I first heard the news, gosh, it was something I'd never experienced before. My wife, we sort of felt this coming on. I did. I mean, I'm catastrophizing for a month before this, right? And she's so strong and standing beside me, and everything's going to be all right, making me feel a lot better. But then we're sitting in the doctor's office, and the guy says, who's a friend of mine, a doctor, a trusted doctor, and a friend of mine, says, "Well, you don't have just one, you have both." And what I felt was numb. You feel your life flash before your eyes, not necessarily about, you're not thinking necessarily about death. You're also thinking about, gosh, I had plans in life and they're going to be different. Even if things go as well as they can, they're going to be different than they were. And so, there was about 4 or 5 days of kind of catastrophic numbness and really fear. Like I said, we were genuinely afraid that Matt wasn't going to be around in 3 to 6 months, and then we kind of flipped to this gratitude phase. People came out of the woodwork. My company, my CEO, chief medical officer, our HR, everyone, people that you would never expect, came out of the woodwork to support me. They're allowing me to work remote while I'm immunosuppressed to kind of protect me, and that gratitude is basically what flipped me and gave me back my drive and it gets me up in the morning. I feel so lucky. That's the silver lining. There's nothing better now than waking up every day in the morning and being alive, because I went through 4 or 5 days thinking that I might not be here. So anyway, I'm full of gratitude, I guess is what I'll say.
Yeah, I mean, it's an incredible story. I mean, you need that support network around you at those times, don't you? Someone telling you it's going to be okay, and like you say, your people that you work with become more supportive than you ever thought anyone would be, and they're the people you really need in your life, I guess, to get you through those moments. But yeah, what a time for you. Thanks for coming on the show and sharing that, Matt, because that's a pretty rough ordeal, and that you've had in the last 3 months. But I'm glad that you've got a good path ahead of you, and you can manage it as best as you can. Is it like any sort of major lifestyle changes that you've had to make in terms of your diet, exercise, and that sort of thing?
Yeah. So for me, the way this affects me, and the way if anyone wants to look it up, just Google Wegener's disease or GPA. For me, it affects my upper respiratory mildly, pulmonary, and then kidney was more significant. I lost a significant, but not a catastrophic amount of kidney function that I hope to get back. Right. But yeah, what I instantaneously did was diet. If we're talking kidney, what I was advised to do was reduce animal protein and kind of reduce protein across the board, which is totally fine. So I switched to a plant-based diet. I do eat fish once or twice a week, but instantaneously did that. I'm looking up, I'm learning about the anti-inflammatory diets and things like that. So I'm a lot of it is diet. Exercise is huge. I was already exercising a lot, so maintaining that, that's a huge benefit. And then outside of that, the biggest thing for me that I am grappling with and probably will grapple with that I really just can't fathom is what is life living like in an immunocompromised state. So within 2 weeks of being on prednisone, just from touching your face and being a human being on this earth, I had an eye infection. I don't get eye infections. Yeah. And so now, I'm kind of isolating, similar to the way we all did during COVID, and being safe. And that being said, the doctors tell me after I'm off the prednisone, which I'm tapering off of as the other drugs begin to work, the infusions begin to work, prednisone is the carpet bomb to your immune system. So probably December, January, the rituximab will have hopefully begun taking effect. And yes, although I will be immunocompromised, it's going to be to a similar extent to anyone taking lifelong medicine for rheumatoid arthritis, ulcerative colitis, or something like that.
Yeah. So. Yeah. And I'd imagine something like this just changes your outlook to life, but also like how you treat people in the office, and when you're in your leadership, probably makes you a bit more empathetic. Do you think it's changed you in terms of how you operate both in work and at home?
Yeah, absolutely. It's actually kind of odd. I've never been. I mean, I've always been a happy person, but I've never felt more blessed and happy and grateful just to be around loved ones and work with amazing people and have an amazing wife than I have in the last 2 months since this diagnosis. And I wonder if other people who go through similar things experience the same thing. I bet they do, but yeah, my perspective on life has completely changed. Yeah. Instantaneously, you want to do well in life. You want to progress. You want to have nice things. Instantaneously, I knew none of that mattered. You can't take any of it with you. The Egyptians tried, and they failed. So what really matters is love, gratitude, family, and helping others. And every day, that's the first thing I think of when I get out of bed.
Yeah, well, good for you, Matt. And listen, I wish you all the best with managing this. It sounds like you've got it under control in your mind, which is the most important thing. And you've got the support of the people around you. So, good luck to you. And let's let's hope that your story inspires others, which I'm sure it will, and it, obviously gives you incredible amount of purpose in what you're doing in your job.
Yeah, I think the takeaway, the key takeaway is, and what they told me at UNC is 20 years ago, you would die in 3 to 6 months, but now you won't, and now you're going to live a relatively normal life because of these medicines. And so, just the simple fact that organizations can give people that back. Only 20 years ago, my life might have ended in 3 to 6 months. I mean, and now, and
20
now
years isn't a long time, is it?
It's not a long time.
In the grand scheme of things.
It's not a long time. Yeah, absolutely not. And the other thing is, I've always had this fear of medicine. Like, I don't want to be on medicine. I wouldn't want to be on things for the rest of my life. But when you're faced with when you're faced with something like this, and by the way, my doctor at the diagnosis, I said, what are my options? He said, you don't have any other options. You're going to take this medicine or else. Then you just sort of lean into it and you accept it, and you're really just blessed that those treatments exist. And
it's amazing. Yeah, one of my friends' wives was recently sort of diagnosed with an insular glioma of the brain. And it's like a grade 2, which is the least sort of severe for an adult. But it kind of she has to go for an operation, obviously brain surgery, and then it's kind of controlling it. And you just hope that over the next 5-10 years, new medicine, new therapies get developed that are allows you to manage those and treat those even in the future. It's incredible, the advancements in science and what the industry is doing. So it's these real life stories. You forget that there are real life stories out there that are dependent on the science that you guys are doing.
I feel for her, the mental toll that the mental toll that these things carry. And there, by the way, there's people. I'm not the person who is diagnosed with a brain cancer or pancreatic cancer, and oh my gosh, that's another level. I feel so deeply for them, and yeah, that's right. But look, Matt, I think you've got a great story. I think you've from your career perspective, you're still relatively young in terms of your career. You've done some amazing things already. You're operating at vice president level, which is an incredible feat. So, like, best of luck with all that you have in front of you. I usually end the show with some quick fire questions, and I want to just ask you these 2 questions, if that's okay. I suppose the first question you've touched on, but. What would be the 3 most important values to you in your life? Yeah, and like you mentioned, my perspective on life has changed in the last 2 months, and they're 2 big ones that I would have said before, but I didn't exactly know what they meant. But the first one is definitely be of service, and that's carried me in my career. I think that's a reason why I've been blessed and lucky enough to get to where I am in my career. I've been this way since I was a kid. It extends to every aspect of my life. You come to my house, you're going to be waited on hand and foot because that's who I am. I'm passionate about being of service to everyone, and that's the perspective I carry at work. Everyone is a customer. Even our service providers are customers, because if I provide service to them, they're going to provide great service to me. So that's the first one. Number 2, the one that has carried me in the last 2 months, and I expect to carry me for the rest of my life, is gratitude. It's to be grateful. And frankly, I found this one a lot easier to do and to be much more powerful when times are tough. It has been my medicine for living a positive life in the midst of challenging circumstances. I don't expect my life to continue to be challenging, but I expect to carry that gratitude on more reasonable challenges. I had a tough day. I work with someone who occasionally has a bad attitude. I'm going to use gratitude to be my medicine and make me continue to do a good job. And then my last one, which I guess I've taken for granted. I can admit that I've taken for granted is take care of your family. Similar to being grateful, you can't take any of this with you. Your loved ones matter the most in this life, and no matter how hard you work or what you bring to them, what matters the most is the time, the love that you bring to them. And if you think you're telling them you love them enough or just enough, it's not enough. So those are kind of my three values.
Awesome. I want to end with this question. Who has been who is your biggest inspiration in your life, either personally or professionally?
Yeah, I've got a ton of inspirations, especially professionally. But my biggest inspiration in my life is my wife. Again, we've been through some rough times in the last 3 years, but especially in the last year. Over my career and over the time that we've been married, 6 years plus the time we've been in a relationship, I worked really hard and I sacrificed focus on family time, friends outside of long hours. Sometimes I've had long-term contracts in other states. When my wife, when she first moved in with me, that was a big step for us. 3 days later, I came home and said, I'm going to Colorado for 6 months, and I have 2 cats, and y'all are going to become really good friends. And you know what? She always just stood strong and supported me. She knew I loved what I did, and it brings me a lot of purpose in life to do what I do, and that's why I work so hard. But she's always stood by me, encouraged me, supported me. She's been with me through the tough times. She's my guardian angel. She's been my nurse, and I've been her nurse. So yeah, again, I like to have a focus in life. I like to have a lot of focuses in life, but she's my focus and she's my purpose, and I wake up every morning driven to be the best that I can for her. So
awesome, well done, Matt. Good for you, Matt. It's been a really, really great episode. I've really enjoyed talking to you, not only just to get to know you and learn about your your career, but your story and the challenges that you've faced recently. Thank you for being so open and honest and vulnerable and sharing that with us. And I found it pretty inspirational talking to you and hearing your outlook on life, and I think a lot of people will. So congratulations on all you've achieved, and congratulations on everything that you will achieve. Let's definitely have another episode in the next couple of years and see all the amazing things that you guys are doing. I wish you all the best.
Absolutely. And by the way, you inspire me as well. I listened to your podcast long before you reached out to me. And many times it was on a plane when I'm going to audit a client. And I loved hearing from other quality organizations or quality individuals, because it put me in that mindset going in. So again, you're doing great things too. And I really appreciate you having me.
I appreciate it, Matt. No, absolute pleasure. And thank you for saying that. It's I'm glad to, it's an honor for me to be able to talk to people like yourself and hear you guys, your journeys. So absolute pleasure. Thanks so much for coming on the show, and we'll talk soon.
Talk soon. Thank you.
Cheers, man.
Thank you for listening to today's show. I hope that you got value from it, whether you're starting your career in quality or if you're at the top of your field. Today's episode was brought to you by RX Group. I'm the founder of RX Group. We are a pharma and biotech recruitment organization focusing purely on quality assurance. We recruit consultants and senior level permanent quality professionals into the pharma and biotech industry. If we can support you, whether that be in a hiring capacity or if you yourself are looking for work, please get in touch with me on LinkedIn, visit our LinkedIn page where you can subscribe to the podcast, and visit our website www.rx-group.io to find out more about us. See you soon.